Hey you, welcome back to Mick. It's your favorite Aussie tea drinker, Jack here, giving you some more stories on the internet, and here's today's bundle. If you enjoyed today's content, leave a like on the video, otherwise I will remove your spleen. Don't worry, it's not a threat, it's a promise. Let's get started with the stories. This story by Zobele. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that his behavior is completely inappropriate? My husband's mother has never liked me, and she was snappy from day one. Honestly, she never did anything egregious, but I don't tolerate bullying, and he had never been close to her, so we went no contact. We still had a relationship with the father-in-law and one son-in-law, though mother-in-law's other daughter chose to not have a relationship with us. I could tell for a while that it was bothering the father-in-law. He was very withdrawn at our wedding, and when I tried to comfort him, he snapped at me that I have no idea how much it hurts to be there without his wife. The mother-in-law almost died over the summer due to a freak accident on a friend's boat. She was in a coma for a couple of days and has had to do physical therapy. Father-in-law called us when she got home and said he can't see us anymore because when he was looking at her in the coma, he couldn't live with the fact that he hangs out with people who hate her, and he can't play both sides anymore. My husband got very upset and asked him to reconsider, but father-in-law said from now on, they are a package deal, and if he can't respect her, he can't see us. My husband has been devastated, and I've been trying to help him work through it, but he has gone to their house multiple times to talk to his dad. Father-in-law will not see him unless he apologizes to his mum, though mother-in-law has said that she doesn't want to see him and doesn't want an apology. The last time the husband went over there, the son-in-law we are estranged with called the cops. So I sat down with him recently and we had a serious conversation about how it isn't okay. I said that he needs to respect his dad's boundaries. He can't trespass and he can't force a relationship. I told him point blank that his actions were completely inappropriate. He is now mad at me for not having empathy and said that that was a robotic response and he can't lose his dad. Now edit for some of the stuff she did. Look, she would not eat my cooking and clung to father-in-law's arm, whining that she was hungry. She was constantly making jokes about my outfits, and my husband must really love me to put up with the frumpiness. When father-in-law bought her things, she would literally be like, I got something and you didn't. She made jokes about spending all of father-in-law's money because she didn't want us to get any when they died, including sending my husband a picture of a hotel room full of shopping bags and saying, your inheritance. She tried to hijack her daughter's wedding and make it a party for herself. She whined and talked in baby talk constantly because father-in-law thought it was cute. She kept giving me marital advice when she had been asked to stop, and then said I was doing marriage wrong because my husband doesn't baby me. She sprayed me with a hose while she was watering her dog, and then just laughed and would not apologize and said I should get a sense of humor. So the mother-in-law seems like a petty bully, possibly knowing where the line is and doing whatever she can to get as close to it without fully crossing it. Of course, what one thinks is bullying could be another thinking that they're just giving some banter. So let's see what the comments say. Nata. Doesn't he understand the concept of no? His parents are telling him no. He needs to respect it and work through his feelings on his own, without repeatedly bothering two traumatized people. Disagree, you are the a-hole. You've separated your husband from his family because you don't like his mother's personality. She hasn't done anything to you except minor teasing, and for that, you've ended a mother-son relationship. Definitely the a-hole. Others are just all around skeptical about it all, thinks you're leaving stuff out. Your edit shows all the stuff she did, but how about the stuff you did? If they hate you so bad, I find it hard to believe you've just been the perfect little angel all this time. It's also quite horrible for husband since he only lost both his parents and a sister because of you. No wonder he's mad. Not the a-hole for saying this was inappropriate though, because it was. Also Nata, I see why your husband reacted in such a way. He is hurt and can't see that his behavior is going to be more damaging in the long run, but his sister called the police, and he needs to accept that this behavior is not okay or wanted. So where do our thoughts lie? When you do think about the story, really, the drama all stems around the OP. She's the one who's kind of caused all this. So my opinion rests on whether or not she's justified in what she did. Like, yeah, the mother-in-law's a bit of a bully, but is that enough to justify going fully no contact? I don't know, I just feel like there could have been other methods to putting your foot down about that behavior. But this story is specifically asking about whether or not her reaction to her husband is justified. And is it? Is she justified for reprimanding her husband for the circumstances she created? Next story by Weirdo Child 12. Am I the a-hole for maybe causing my mum and ex-stepdad's divorce? I'm a 14-year-old boy and I had two dads. For context, my mum met my stepdad about 3 years after my bio dad split up. He married her shortly after and became my dad for 7 years. So I recently started seeing my bio dad the past few years, and I've been enjoying myself most of the time there. I lived with my mum, my 6 siblings, and my stepdad. All that changed last summer when we were forced to move to Vancouver, as my mum had no adult help with caring for the children, and we had to move closer to family. Because of my ex-stepdad's job, he couldn't move. Everything was hunky-dory until my mum picked me up from the airport. During the long drive, she broke the news to me that her and my ex-stepdad had broken up. He either broke up with her through text or phone call. I can't remember which, but still, that's an in-person thing to discuss. I hadn't really noticed any of the fights they were having. I just thought it was normal marriage. But I have recently started feeling like I could have caused this by spending more time with my bio dad. My ex-stepdad just stopped talking to me like he was dropping a drug addiction cold turkey. I feel so terrible for taking away my sibling's dad. The last time he texted me was on my 14th birthday, so like a month ago, and said happy birthday. I replied with just thanks. I don't know what I could have done to anger him so much, but hopefully I find out. So am I the a-hole for maybe causing this? Edit, he divorced my mum a month after she had to move away due to lack of care for the children. People's thoughts? Not the a-hole. Kids are not responsible for the relationship problems of adults. The fact that your mother moved all of you due to lack of childcare and knowing her husband wouldn't follow means their relationship was over long before you were even aware that they had split up. This is unanimously agreed upon. You're not the a-hole at all for your parents doing this. I wanted to highlight this story just to remind people of that kind of logic. Parents are grown adults. Their decisions they make are theirs alone to make. How it affects everyone around them is all on them. Any parent that ever says that they left a partner or they ended a marriage because of the children is using that as a front, when in reality they're actually saying, I cannot uphold the honor or responsibility of being a parent. I don't care if your child has some sort of special needs that are very difficult to deal with. You have to accept the fact that if you leave someone because of children, you are leaving them because you failed to be a parent. Just accept that about yourself and learn to grow from it. Failing at something, even parenting though, does not make you a bad person. Failing to acknowledge it does. Next story by Anastasia. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend she deserved to get cheated on? So this happened a few minutes ago, and I'm kind of freaking out because what if it was too mean? Anyways, let me explain how me and my friend became friends. About a year ago, I was dating a guy, Jay, and we were together somewhat for almost a year. We ended up deciding to be friends instead. However, during our friendship, I found out that he had been dating a girl, N, for almost 3 years, and he had cheated on her with me. Obviously, I didn't know, and her and I got into contact, and they broke up. We became friends, but stopped talking for a while due to reasons irrelevant to the current situation. Now on to today. We were in a Discord server, and there was this truth or dare bot, and it asks a question like, have you ever had a crush on a friend's partner? To which she replied yes, and started bragging about taking her friend's man. The timeline of this matched up with when she started dating Jay, so I asked her if she was talking about him. So I asked her if it was about him, and she said no, but that she stole him from some other girl she knew too. It made me so mad because she literally cried to me several times over him cheating on her and how could he do this, etc., etc. It feels like I've been lied to. She painted herself as this sweet girl who wouldn't cheat on someone and loyalty was that she was all about, but she betrayed multiple of her friends. I ended up messaging her, telling her that she deserved what she got, not being depressed, but getting cheated on, and blocked her before she finished typing her message. I also left her server. So, am I the a-hole for telling my friend she deserved to be cheated on? I'm an 18-year-old female and she's 17. Ooh, drama. What does people say? Well, everyone sucks here. Jay for being a cheating a-hole, and her for bragging about stealing her friend's man. But also you for intentionally trying to make her feel bad about stuff that happened 3 years ago rather than just cutting contact. Pro-life tip, if someone in a relationship is willing to cheat with you, you better believe they're going to cheat on you with someone else. Now, the OP does defend themselves, saying that they weren't trying to make her feel bad because of what she did back then. It's the fact that she still has the same mindset. And personally, I think this is where she's justified in what she said. It's one thing to say you felt pretty excited about it all until it happened to you. It's another to still think it was a fun and cool thing to have done. I will disagree with you blocking her though. I think you confronting her makes you the best friend she could have in her life. Because we all deserve friends who aren't afraid to slap us in the face when we're doing something out of line. This wasn't just a casual political conversation after all. This was literally just about morals and human decency. It's something we should read up on more as people, but shame can be healthy. But that said, deserve to be cheated on is rather subjective and more of an emotional response. By stating that, you're more expressing how hurt you are by the news than, the factual statement that it is. Reality is no one deserves to be cheated on, but more so, she got what was coming to her by getting with a guy who she cheated with. This is gonna ramble on too long, so I'm just gonna say, you are actually the a-hole. At least I think so. Just seems like what you did was more so as revenge for feeling betrayed than actually you wanting to, make her see where she went wrong. Next story by Lapidot the Clods. Am I the a-hole for refusing to move for someone to help their anxiety? This was way before lockdown, but I saw a post that reminded me of this, so I wanted to ask. Sorry if the formatting is weird. So I'm a 15-year-old non-binary, and I want to study geography, but find it super hard to focus in class, and I always get distracted and can never take in the information, even when I manage to focus. Because of this, I asked my teacher if I could have my own table at the back of the class, where I could see the front and spread out my work and have a nice, messy workspace that makes me more comfortable. He said yes, and I moved. One of my friends, Elle, was in that class. After a while, she decided to move to the back with her friend, who I'll call F. F and I don't get along too well, but she still sat next to me while Elle sat on her other side. It wasn't that bad, their talking was a bit annoying, and I couldn't spread out my work, but I still managed to focus. But then F started kicking the table. I asked her to stop, and she did for a bit, then started again. I asked her to stop again, but this happened about 5 times, and I could hardly pay attention, to the point I snapped and told her very harshly to not do it again as we were leaving the lesson. At this point, I didn't know it was something she did to cope with anxiety, and thought she was doing it to annoy me. Later that day, she messaged me about it and told me how she did it to calm down when she felt anxious, and she didn't mean to be annoying. But if it was then, it may be best if I moved, as she couldn't help it. I told her that I asked specifically for the seat I was in because it helped me work, because I'm serious about geography. While she doesn't really care, I had made it very clear that I wanted that seat specifically before, but never specified why, and wasn't going to move. And she should move instead. Well, she said that she prefers sitting with Elle because she helps her when she's anxious, and there isn't any other space where the two could sit together, when there is literally a space on the other side of Elle, which isn't connected to my table, and would give me room to work and not distract me. So am I the a-hole for not moving for her and telling her to move instead? Thoughts? No a-holes here. Sounds like you have ADHD symptoms and need the accommodation for your education. Talk to your teacher about her moving to the other side of Elle. Explain that Elle's anxious habit is distracting you and impacting your education. Your needs are just as valid as hers. Well, you're the a-hole. She's not telling you to move. You're telling her to move. It's not your classroom. She could love geography too. Or maybe she can also benefit from that space as well. I'm sure your teacher will agree that you aren't the only child who could benefit from being at that table. Bottom line, don't be a jerk. You're not a child. Don't throw a tantrum over what you consider your space. I'm not too sure about the answer for this one. You can argue that F's anxiety really seems to be them making excuses for their habitual behavior, but you can also argue that OP's own behavior is just lacking better techniques for getting them more focused. Was this specific table really necessary to make you focus better, or was it just giving yourself a change of scenery in your angle in the classroom that made you actually focus better? I'm not saying that's definitely the case, just throwing thoughts out there. I do think their original point of just having F move to the other side of L would kind of probably just fix the whole situation, but this sounds like drama ultimately up to the teacher, the person running the classroom, to ultimately decide on. But what are your thoughts though? You think that they are the a-hole because they're trying to tell someone with their own difficulties to sort them out, or are they not the a-hole because they're justified to want their personal space to work for them? It is F's kicking that is making the disturbance after all. For now, on to the next story by irate dad throwaway. Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law to get her stuff together after she put my son at risk? My mother-in-law lost her job last year to COVID and moved in with my wife and I last summer for financial reasons. She hasn't found another job yet, but she helps out with childcare of our 2-year-old son, and overall, it hasn't been completely terrible, except for the last few months when things have gotten harder. Mother-in-law's dad, my wife's grandpa, was diagnosed with cancer last fall, and his health has been getting worse and worse over time. No treatments helped much, and over the last month, the care switched from treatment to comfort, as it was clear he was going to pass. Last week, he finally succumbed to his illness and passed away in his sleep. Since then, mother-in-law has been understandably upset and preoccupied with all the arrangements that follow a loved one's death. My wife was never close to her grandpa, so she's not as distraught over it, but she's been very supportive of mother-in-law, and I've tried to be there in any way I can. This past weekend, my wife had to work, and I had to run a few errands, so I asked mother-in-law if she could watch my son for an hour. She agreed, and I told her I would be back as soon as I can. I wasn't even gone an hour, maybe 45 minutes. When I got back, it was very quiet. Too quiet for anyone with a toddler to be comfortable with. I walked into the living room, and mother-in-law was staring at her phone with toys and books scattered on the floor. I asked her where my son was, and she said, "Oh, he was just right here." I walked into the kitchen, and he was in the cabinet under the sink, the one with all our cleaning supplies. I yelled no out of reaction and grabbed him up. Luckily, he didn't get into anything that could do harm, but I was still freaked out. We have a lock on that cabinet, so I asked mother-in-law what happened. She said she was going to do some dishes and unlocked the cabinet, but got distracted by a phone call about her dad's funeral and must have forgot to lock it again. I was livid. I didn't raise my voice, but mother-in-law could obviously sense the anger in my words. I told her she needed to get her stuff together if she's going to watch my son. She said she was sure he was just at her feet playing right before I got home, and she doesn't know how he got away. I told her I know she's going through a lot right now, but when it comes to the safety of my son, I have zero tolerance for her fricking around, and she's lucky she didn't lose a grandson along with her dad. She started crying and went to the guest room and closed the door. When my wife got home a couple hours later, I told her what happened and what I said to her mum. My wife was freaked out, but thought the things I said were too harsh. I tried to apologize to mother-in-law later that night, but she refuses to talk to me and just stayed in the guest room. So I apologized to her through the door for the things I said and explained I was just freaked out and scared in the moment. Mother-in-law still isn't talking to me, but I'm not going to keep apologizing over and over when she's the one who messed up. Am I the a-hole here? People's thoughts. I agree with your wife. You're justified in your anger. Everyone makes mistakes, but she does need to ensure she is alert enough to care for your child. However, your words were way too harsh. Why did you throw her freshly deceased father in her face? Yeah, you're the a-hole. Probably should have just taken your kid with you instead of asking the grieving, understandably already distracted lady to babysit. Damn, man, her whole life was uprooted because of COVID. She lost a parent, still planning the funeral, and you're like,
"So you can babysit, right?"
No, not the a-hole. Grieving doesn't excuse bad behavior, and OP asking her to watch his kid for an hour isn't an unreasonable or bad thing to do. Some people jump at a chance to do something that would distract them from their grief. It was up to the mother-in-law to say she didn't think she could be fully present to watch his kid, and he didn't yell at her like a bunch of people are saying he did. He let her know how serious her frick-up was, and if she wasn't his grieving mother-in-law, no one would think his reaction would be out of line. Losing a parent doesn't justify almost letting a kid die. OP's words may have been harsh, but they were true and justified. So what's our thoughts here? I kinda have to agree with the fact that yeah, sorry for your loss, but if you can't take care of the kid, if you don't think you're in the right space for it, don't offer to do it, or don't agree to do it. And if you screw up like you did, mother-in-law, you just own it, accept it. You know that the father was justified. Of course, the mother-in-law is grieving. We can't expect her to be fully grounded in how she's thinking or reacting to things, but refusing to open the door to the OP so that they can apologize. I mean, it seems like this whole story itself was already wrapped up and fixed, but I guess the mother-in-law is too shaken to, I guess, accept the apology. It's also very possible that she's just so ashamed of what happened, she just can't face him. Either way, I still think AmITA, because even if what you said was extremely too harsh, way out of line, and you were an idiot to even ask the mother-in-law to babysit in the first place, you still tried to apologize, even before making this story for us to judge you on. It's, surprisingly rare for people to do that here. Now, that's what we're gonna end things today, folks. Hope you had some fun today and learned some great stories and formulated some thoughts you can ramble at in the comments below. I do love to read them as I'm pooping on the toilet, so hey, let me know what you think. If you got more time, why not check out some other videos on the channel today as well? But with all that said, my name has been Jack. You've been a bloody good person to ramble at today. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye-bye.